Hi, my name is Dennis Tran, and I am a late identified autistic ADHD Vietnamese American who is serving as the Director of Partnership with the Asian American with Disability Initiative, AAI for short. Our nonprofit mission aims to uplift the voices of disabled Asian Americans and provide the next generation of disabled Asian American leaders with accessible resources so that they can combat anti-Asian racism and ableism in their own communities. Part of our mission is to highlight and promote the amazing work disabled Asian American advocates and changemakers are doing in the community. And today, I'm excited to be interviewing Ava X. Rigelhaupt, whom I have the pleasure of knowing and to be able to work with through Respectability, Entertainment, and News Media Fellowship Program. Ava X. Rigelhaupt is a writer, autism consultant, actress, public speaker, and advocate for the disability and autism representation in the entertainment industry. As an autistic Chinese Jewish adoptee, she shares her intersectional experiences through script and character consulting and speaking on panels. She educates and influences the film industry by creating authentic representation of an underrepresented community. She is also a 2020 graduate of the Sarah Lawrence College. Ava most recently worked is as an autistic creative consultant on a Broadway musical, How to Dance in Ohio, based on Alexandra Shiva's award-winning HBO documentary of the same name. The musical follows 7 autistic young adults at a social skill group in Ohio as they come of age, forge connection, and prepare for a spring formal dance. It premieres on Broadway December 2023. Additionally, she works on children's TV as a writer for a PBS Kids upcoming anime series, in addition to writing various episodes of Night Story Media. Welcome, Ava, and with that, I'm excited to kickstart this interview. Can you share with me more about the Broadway musical How to Dance in Ohio and how you got involved in it?
Yeah, first, of course, thank you so much, Dennis and Asian Americans with Disabilities Initiative for having me and interviewing me. I've always wanted to be connected with them. It seems like a fellow colleague that we both knew, Vanny Lee, told me about it and that you worked there. And so I was like, this sounds really interesting. And I wanted to outreach to you all and tell you about the musical. So as you already said the synopsis, I won't repeat it, but I'll highlight that all 7 autistic characters are authentically cast and understudied. And in my opinion, the show is a coming of age story that introduces the autistic perspective to non autistic people. And it represents a lived experience of disabled/autistic people who probably haven't seen themselves on stage before. I got involved with the musical just about 2 years ago this October. I know Becky Leafman. She's the co founder of Collab, a theater group in New York City for people with developmental disabilities. She knows the producers of the show, and back in 2021, they asked her if she could recommend any autistic people to consult on the show. In addition to casting authentically, they wanted to bring more autistic voices behind the stage. And that was one of the big details that really told me that this team is dedicated to doing the work of creating an inclusive and accessible production. Becky knew of my history consulting with Trinity Repertory Company, the regional theater here in Rhode Island, and also consulting, for example, like with Respectability on autistic representation on screen. So she recommended me and I met with them via Zoom and we really hit it off. I was the first autistic person hired, but our team has a good handful more in, for example, producing, the music department, and crew.
Yeah, that's a very exciting opportunity you have being able to work on a musical and being able to shed light on your lived experience as an autistic person. So that kind of tied into my next question of like how does your lived experiences and your background shape your work as the autistic creative consultant for the Broadway musical?
Yeah. As a Chinese Jewish transracial autistic adoptee, I know that's a mouthful. I bring my lived experience and intersectional identity to all of my work in different ways. Of course, for this, I lean into what it's like growing up as an autistic woman who was also later diagnosed when I was 18 years old. And as the autistic creative consultant, I work across all the teams to ensure a culture of inclusion and accessibility. Our team likes to say access at the forefront, not as an afterthought. In addition to, it's not about being invited to the party, it's being asked to dance, about true inclusion. And my role has evolved over the 2 years. I started working with Rebecca Greer-Milosic and Jacob Yandura, the script and songwriters. I brought my knowledge from other projects, many I did with Respectability, regarding proper autism representation. We discussed autistic cliches to avoid, such as not all autistic people make eye contact, proper disability language, and adding authentic autistic mannerisms, which really add nuance and truth to our characters. For this project, it's really interesting balancing staying true to the source material of the documentary with the real people, while also figuring out from the documentary how to create an entertaining and fictionalized world on stage. Some things stay the same, but some don't. Beyond the script, I work with the producers and Becky Leafman to create accessible rehearsal spaces, sending out an access needs survey to all the casting crew, not just the disabled people. And this survey asks, what do you need to do your best work, among other questions. We got amazing responses from the survey, including the Broadway veterans who have done, of course, a million rehearsals, but they were never asked simple questions like that, you know? And even before entering the space, all of our actors and crew really felt supported and respected. I also bring my sensory friendly knowledge from past projects to the show. But I'm really glad to say that we worked hard and our show is inherently sensory friendly. We wanted it to be created for everyone. And there are no strobe lights or really loud clashing noises. For the world premiere in Syracuse and soon for the Broadway premiere, I create a sensory friendly trigger list. This tells patrons when a noise that may be overwhelming will happen so that they can prepare. You know, for example, after this character says X, there's going to be a car horn. It also helps educate audiences about disability and autism, such as what is stimming or why the person next to them might wear headphones. Our performances are inclusive to all, not just on certain dates. Becky and I also created a language guide for press teams with updated disability terms. As we know, those are always evolving, and different ways of how to interact with the disability community and interview our actors. With social media, we're creating accessible online content, for example, posts with captions and image descriptions, and a website that can be read by screen readers. I know this is a long answer. Finally, I work with the producers and the partnerships teams on outreaching to disability-led organizations such as this one, disabled influencers and allies, and more. We want to spread the word and collaborate with individuals, companies, and nonprofits that share our values of inclusion and impact-driven work.
Well, that's definitely amazing, like how you're able to take your lived experiences and play a big role in the musical in many different facets of that.
Yeah.
Now, how the bigger impact of it all, being able to make an impact in the autistic community, but also the disability community as well. And that's tied into the next question of how does representation play a role in that, and especially from an intersectional lens.
Yeah, as you said, it's already making an impact in the disability and autism community. I was just talking to another autistic actor, and he was like, yeah, I've heard about the show. It's been talked a little bit on Discord. And so this is a great question. And I think the show is a win for the autistic community because it is going to be another positive example of visible representation. People will be able to find essences of themselves in our characters' journeys. I think the show will be talked amongst the other great shows, like Everything's Gonna Be Okay, As We See It, The Ghost and Molly McGee, which was actually my first consulting job with Respectability, and Love on the Spectrum. Like those shows, our musical breaks stigmas of what is autism. We actually say from the beginning, you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. And I think it'll be another great example of representation and the abilities of the autistic community.
That's great to hear about those touch points about the different intersectionality and how that plays a role in the development of this Broadway musical. After your contribution to the show as a consultant, what impact do you hope or want the audience to take away from as they are watching this musical?
I also have another touch point actually on intersectionality since you mentioned it. Our show, just like how autism is a big part of my identity, it is among other parts, right? Such as being AAPI, adopted, a woman. Our show is more than just a show about autism. It is an integral part of the show, as I said about my identity, and it's how our 7 characters navigate the world, but it is more than that. There are non autistic characters in our show that also are searching for connection, and we watch as they too have triumphs and tribulations. Our cast brings their intersectional identity to the characters, adding depth and realness. For example, Dr. Emilio Migo has Cuban roots, the real one, and our actor. And like for a fun fact, one of our actors does cosplay, and we added the characters that they cosplayed as in one of the scenes. The writers did a really great job weaving the real people from the documentary into fictionalized characters, and then even with aspects of our real autistic actors' lives. So I just wanted to touch upon that as well. And I think the impact that audiences will take away from the Broadway musical, first for our disabled audiences and possibly anyone from a marginalized or underrepresented background, I think the show will invigorate them to think, I can. Here are 7 autistic actors that are performing on the world's biggest stage. I think it will show people I can succeed too, and I can be myself while doing it. I hope non disabled audiences learn to go beyond perceived differences between themselves and disabled people and find that there are many similarities. Finding connections sometimes takes a little bit more work, and it's not all on the disabled or autistic individual, but it's really worth it for both parties.
Yes, that's definitely a great message to leave off on with the viewer to be able to see different perspective of themselves and perception of what it means to be disabled and how it's from perspective of survival to a thriving mindset where they know that they can see themselves represented and they know that they can do it, and also like for non-disabled folks to see a different side of the autism or disabled community and challenging the perception of it.
And our actors, they are incredibly talented. I definitely know I cannot sing or dance as well as they can. And that is what we also wish to highlight, the immense talent that these actors all have in addition to being autistic. We hired them because of their talents and what they brought to the stage as autistic people, not just because they're autistic people. We had a gazillion, a lot. We did a nationwide call for our very first way back in 2021, in addition for understudies this round for Broadway. And there's so much talent out there. It's really amazing to see. And that's what we want to show audiences, the talent of the disability community.
That's great to be able to know that there's so many talent out there, and of course because of people who are autistic or disabled, they may not be able to have these opportunities or be able to reach their opportunity. And I really like the idea of how this Broadway is able to bring them together and to showcase that. And that bringing me to the next question of what advice would you give to someone who's interested in being involved in the type of work you're doing and being a part of this musical work?
Yeah. In general, people who are interested in possibly doing the type of work that I'm doing, the first thing that I wrote down when I saw this question was network. But really, all the projects I've gotten have come through someone knowing me and recommending me to someone else, and that person taking a chance. For example, the PBS writing team read my samples and liked them, but they also took a chance on a new writer. Most of the writers are really more experienced than me, and that's actually great because I get to learn from them. Also, I know disclosing is a really big deal. We could have a whole panel on it. But I learned in the right circumstances, embracing your identity is often more fruitful than trying to be someone else. Like this project and others, I was also hired because of my intersectional identity and what I add to the team and the project.
I really like how you wrap it up in a way that embrace your full identity and just like embrace it. I know not everyone can come to terms with it, but I think there's always that benefit and that satisfaction and fulfillment from being able to embrace the different intersectionality of your identity.
Yeah, it's a process. But many teams these days that are willing to do the work and want to create nuanced and inclusive shows want people to bring more of their identities and see how we can make the industry, better. That's also another thing that our show is aiming to do, to kind of positively change how theater and Broadway is conducted, from not just having authentic casting, but again, like our rehearsals, our outreach, all that stuff. We are looking at it kind of from a different angle than more traditional Broadway people. And we want to see how we can open the gates to more communities.
Love all that work that you're doing for the entertainment and media and also the musical theater program. And with that, thanks for being here and being able to give me the opportunity to interview you. Before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share? Share perhaps like showcase like the Broadway musical or like where people can connect with you as well.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you again. You can find the musical's Instagram at Ohio Musical. We're also on TikTok. And the best place to reach me is on LinkedIn under Ava X Rigelhaupt. You can say that you heard about me through this interview. I don't think I have too many closing remarks, except that I hope to see you at the show sometime. Previews start November 15th and opening December 10th, 2023. It's going to be really great.
Sounds great, and I'll definitely link all the handle for the musical and where to connect Ava. Here you go, and thank you again, Ava.
Great. Thank you so much, Dennis.